So you're thinking about getting a big adventure bike, you've seen all the advertisements and the manufacturers showing you all the bells and whistles on these big flagship adventure bikes. You've seen Charlie and Ewan go around the world and you're ready to take the plunge. But I'm here to tell you 3 major reasons why getting a big adventure bike might be a massive mistake. I know those are fighting words, so allow me to explain myself.
Kill it! Kill it!
These bikes aren't really that good off-road. That's the big dirty secret that the manufacturers don't really want you to know. They sell these things as dual motorcycles that can travel the world, get you off the beaten path and have amazing adventures. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that that can't be the case, but I am saying that these bikes aren't necessarily the best tool for the job for having that experience, especially if you're a new or returning rider. There are some riders that have the skills to back up riding a big, powerful, heavy adventure bike off-road. There's also a segment that don't have the skills, but they still love the challenge of trying to handle a big, heavy bike off-road. If you're in those 2 minority groups, this video isn't for you. But if you're a new rider, a returning rider, or just an average bloke who doesn't have the time to either develop or maintain the skills for a big, heavy adventure bike, then I've got some big reasons why you probably shouldn't take the plunge and get one. The first one is weight. These things weigh a ton, and if you drop it, it's going to be very difficult to pick it up, especially if you've been riding all day in hot weather, you've just dropped it on a hill, you're stuck to the axles in mud. That 250 kilo adventure bike is going to feel like it weighs a ton, and you're probably going to need someone to help you pick it up. And that's going to start to wear into your psyche when you're riding off-road. I've had this experience myself. You stop enjoying yourself and you start worrying about if you're going to be dropping your bike. You start putting all your energy and all your focus into staying upright because you're so worried that if you do drop it, you're not going to be able to pick it up. And that just ruins the ride and saps that enjoyment out of the adventure that you were sold on the packet when you bought the thing to start with. The other side of this is not only does it eat away mentally, but it's a physical effort because it's such a big, heavy thing lumbering around off-road, especially in the tight, twisty stuff. You're physically exhausted. And I found when I got to an end of a ride, I was mentally and physically done, while guys on cheaper, smaller and lighter bikes were having the time of their life, and it really was a revelation for me. These bikes are stupidly expensive and it's a lot of money to commit, especially if you're a new and returning rider and you're just testing out to see if you want to actually ride off-road. Committing such a large sum to a bike that's going to be really difficult to manage off-road is a big risk. And not only that, you will drop your bike off-road, and these big shiny adventure bikes have everything bolted onto them. And that means everything's going to break and it's going to cost you a lot to fix because they're expensive to start with. So you might want to think about looking at a cheaper, more cheerful bike that you don't have to worry about when you do drop it, because the thing is cheap to fix. If you do drop it, scratch it, dent it, it isn't a big worry because the bike is built to take the abuse. Another big reason these bikes aren't really suited for the off-road side is the amount of power they make. These bikes make decent amounts of power because they have big motors, they've got a lot of weight to haul around, and let's face it, a lot of these bikes are being used for touring rather than off-road riding. And that power is fantastic on the road. I'm the first to tell you, as a road rider, I love a powerful bike. When it comes to off-road, I know I can't access all of that power because the traction just isn't there to use all of that power. And the manufacturers know this too. That's why when you put these big adventure bikes in off-road settings, that usually cuts the power in a significant way. So why are you paying for all that horsepower? Because bigger motors, bigger weight equals bigger cost. So what's the point? You may as well get a bike that makes less power at a lower cost and have more enjoyment and be able to manage it better off-road. The other flip side of this is the argument that, well, these big GSs might not be as good off-road as a dual sport solid, but they're fantastic on the road doing big adventures, multi-day trips, particularly adventure touring where you're not really doing any off-road, just dirt roads or maybe all tarmac. I've had just as good adventures on super sports like my Ninja 636, jamming it full of luggage and doing stupidly long trips and having a blast on that thing that I picked up for 1/3 of the price of a big GS, as well as cheap Japanese cruisers, which I've argued in the past are just as good for adventure touring if you're not doing any dirt riding, because they're cheap, reliable, they have plenty of torque and power to have fun, and they're also very comfortable just like an adventure bike, but you don't have to pay the adventure tax. That's some food for thought, that if you're doing road touring, you don't necessarily need an adventure bike either. You could possibly have two bikes for the price of one, a cheap dual sport for your off-road riding and a more road-focused bike for your adventure touring. It's just some food for thought. I'm not necessarily telling you not to go and get the big adventure bike. If it's the bike of your dreams, do what you love and what your heart tells you. But I'm just trying to share my experience and my journey, as well as plenty of other riders I found out have had the same story when we've had a chat off-road. It really is a common mistake that a lot of us make. So I completely understand if you want to go and have that journey, because sometimes having the experience and learning from that experience can be just as valuable as some idiot on YouTube telling you not to do it. So until next time, guys, don't forget to stay shiny side up, and I'll see you in the next one.